Hello everyone. Welcome to the meeting. Uh, this is our first meeting after the KubeCon, and the memories of the KubeCon are still fresh in our minds. We had like one of the best KubeCons and like a super busy one, and very excited to see you all again. Uh, so to start with, I'll just begin with a code of conduct, which in short is to be respectful and kind to each other and appreciate each other's views. With that, we'll get started. Are there any new faces that would like to introduce themselves? I think Alok can begin with. Uh, and for context, I and Alok are in a WhatsApp group, but this is the first time we are seeing each other over Zoom. So, would you like to say a few lines about yourself, Alok? Or you can even type in chat if you are not comfortable signing or speaking.
Yeah, I just see like what he put on Slack that he prefers written communication. So, oh,
He's
Yes.
indicating that he's going to type in the chat. He's typed
Yes.
some things there.
okay. So feel free to add that and then we'll.
I know a little ASL, but I don't use it much. So I don't know it all the time. I don't get together with ASL users much. I have family or friends and I communicate fine with them, but I work with hearing people. So I don't sign a lot. And he's kind of mixing international sign and ASL. But if I'm with friends or something, yeah, it's different.
I think our interpreters are used to that mess, like the language mess. So.
Thank you, Alok.
And Andres is saying, yep, that's right.
Yeah, and I missed what Alok said there at the end.
Alok, you were saying something. Can you please repeat? Okay. Yeah.
It's in the chat.
Thank you, Alok, and welcome to the group. We hope you enjoy your time with all of us. Yes, Milad, you have a hand raised.
Yeah, I wanted to just say that Rob is not here, so I will try to help with Alok if necessary. And Alok, this meeting, we do a lot of different kinds of signing and gesturing, and we use ASL primarily, but not alone. So I know if you have international signs that you use or signs that you use from India, please feel free to use them here and we will learn from each other, and we welcome you and are happy to communicate with you however you like. So we'll figure it out.
Alok is saying, yes, I see that mix. That's great.
So, Alok, just for information, I am the new co-chair of the group, and Rob is already an existing co-chair, but Rob has some family commitments, so he's going to be a little late today. So you are going to love meeting Rob. So our next item on the agenda is by the wonderful Emily Fox, contributing to open source beyond code. So, like I said, we have to venture out just out of our working group and try to get a lot more into open source, because there's like a really wonderful world into open source, and once you get in, you'll just enjoy it. So, Emily, a warm welcome to you, and I think you contributed to the March forward document, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Just before you get started, Just wanted to make sure that everyone can see the screen share and the interpreters, or if we should do voice only. Is everyone?
Give the interpreter a moment to resize her screen. Thank you.
Okay, let us know when you're ready to listen and see. Ready?
Yes.
Everyone? Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Emily.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for inviting me to your meeting. It's a pleasure that I have the opportunity to merge together a lot of content around presentations that I've given on this topic several times. In fact, some of it's from keynotes I've given at KCDDC, where Catherine and I hung out last year, as well as keynotes on the KubeCon stage. But this is my first time putting this all together for you all in this kind of format. I've been asked to talk to you about getting into open source, particularly if you are not familiar with a given piece of technology or even open source communities, because they can be very daunting. They can be very difficult to navigate and hard to understand about how to approach them in a way that allows you to feel included and to pursue more and increasing involvement within those ecosystems. And the first thing that I want to say regarding open source communities and getting involved is you should always approach them from the perspective of leaving them better than you found them. In open source, we have a lot of work and not a lot of people. And the people that are actively involved in projects generally don't have a lot of time. So your presence and anything that you can do to help them out to make their lives just a little bit easier, whether or not that's triaging tickets in the GitHub queue or even answering questions in a Slack channel, is always helpful. And these things assist project maintainers. They assist other community members that come behind you. So when you're approaching a new project or a new community group, consider where you can make changes that improve it for the next person behind you. There's this wonderful quote that I've reused multiple times from Forrest Brazil that talks about the fundamentals of what open source is. Random people on the internet anonymously creating critically important software in their spare time, and companies make billions of dollars on this, using it for free. And oh, by the way, it will happen to be shelf stable for decades. A lot of the original open source software from the 90s is still around and in widespread use today. In fact, many of those maintainers are either still maintaining those projects or they've begun planning a succession for who the next maintainer is to come behind them. And this is kind of the magic of how open source actually works. It's people that you meet online, maybe in person on occasion, and they're working towards a goal or an objective that is greater than themselves. They're doing so in a manner that doesn't require them to expect payment, that doesn't require them to expect anything in return other than camaraderie and community and that feeling that you've been able to accomplish something beyond yourself. And there's a few key principles associated with open source and being involved in these communities and groups. I've captured the 4 main ones that I usually focus on, but there are a lot more, and depending on which open source community you get involved in, you'll see some that are more specific, you'll see some that are more general. But above all, it's transparency. Open source is based on the fact that the source code is available to you without payment, that you can go and independently inspect that code base to understand how it works. And in recent years, that's expanded beyond just source code to include the documentation, tutorials, how-to guides, installation instructions, even explanations about how the software works in the form of presentations at public conferences, the recording of that material, and so much more. And through that transparency, we can enable open exchange and collaboration on ideas. If we can see the source code and we can see the documentation, we can ask questions publicly about it. We can improve our understanding of that software, come up with new ideas on how to make it better, how to improve it, how to make it more approachable for an end user or an adopter in a way that reduces the barrier to entry for them. And that's the same thing for the community groups and the governance that go along with these projects. A lot of open source is also based on meritocracy, but a lot of people get that kind of mixed up. It's not necessarily about whether or not you're a technical expert in Kubernetes networking, or maybe that you're a security expert in open source. It's the fact that you showed up and you put in the work, and you did so in a way that invites others to come along beside you. So while it is based on your technical skill set initially, what you're doing is you're building rapport within a community to be a reliable and trustworthy community member through consistent involvement, either in meetings or in code contributions or discussions in Slack, and even improving documentation. It's your know-how and your approach and your practices in that approach that allow you to go beyond the technical skill set that you initially came in with. And when you're doing it in this manner, it allows you to build your technical skills as a secondary function of why you're really there, which is to leave it better than you found it. And finally, and certainly not the least important, is that open source communities are just that. They're community driven. They're based on who shows up, provides the ideas, and puts in the work. You can show up and have a great idea, but if you never come back to follow through with it, it often isn't picked up. So if you want to see something happen, you have to make the commitment to put in the work. So let's say that you don't write software, and not everyone does. That's okay. I am not a programmer. I am not a software engineer. Please don't ask me to write code. It would be absolutely terrible. And I'm at a point in my career where it doesn't make sense for me to write code 8 hours a day, especially if there's an expectation it would show up in a production system. That's pretty scary. However, in order for technology to reach adoption, it requires multiple different types of skills to go from idea to deployment and eventual upgrade, maybe even decommissioning at the end. The key thing in all of this, whether you're a software engineer or a program manager or a community manager, is that you understand how it works. And there are a lot of references and material available. And if information is missing, you can always ask questions and improve it. Coding and development, while these are the core of technology, they don't actually see the light of day without the support of the community to make them happen, to cut the release, to provide the blog post, write the release notes, and encourage and meet with adopters so that they can understand how it works and gather that feedback to continue improving these projects and communities. But let's say you kind of understand open source now, but you don't quite get cloud native. We are in CNCF after all. There are a ton of resources that are available online, and while that's true, it can be difficult to understand where to go look. Each one of our technical advisory groups has a YouTube channel. Our projects also record several of their community meetings. These are great sources of information about what the current pulse and happenings are associated with a project or a community group. KubeCons are another excellent resource, but it's not available to everyone. We understand there are travel expectations, there's a financial cost associated with it that's not available for everyone. So going and looking at the YouTube recordings of past KubeCon presentations is a great way for you to become a little bit more familiar with specific concepts associated with open source projects, or how different open source cloud native projects can work together to assist adopters in achieving a particular outcome. It's just a matter of finding something that's of interest to you. Attending community meetings, such as this one, is another great way, and asking questions about what's happening. You can always, and I encourage everyone to look at the repos of projects. Sometimes they're really well kept and up to date. They have a lot of material information in there for you. When is the community meeting? Where is their Slack channel? What is their latest release? What is the project planning in the next upcoming release? And what is the roadmap beyond that into the future? You can get a wealth of information from those project repositories. And if it's not in a repository, most projects have documentation that explain how they work. And this is always an area that projects are seeking improvement so that their adopters can understand a little bit more about how the project or the technology functions. But specifically for cloud native, the Technical Oversight Committee maintains the definition of cloud native. And it's not super detailed, it's not super granular, but it does have a few important concepts and principles that we apply to cloud native technologies, such as it's scalable, it's programmatic, it's repeatable, that these technologies and systems are loosely coupled, meaning I can have several independent components that all work together against a standardized API. We also ensure that our cloud native projects are secure, resilient to changes as they occur in those native environments, that they're manageable in an automated fashion, and that they're sustainable as well as observable so you know what's going on in your environment. The reason why we have all of these principles and concepts in cloud native is because there's benefits to them. When you have robust automation, you can employ cloud native practices and make changes in your environment faster at the velocity that your business or your organization needs. Having loosely coupled systems allows us to more uniquely and independently expect those individual components while also taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture about how they all work together. But there's a lot of challenges when we approach these kinds of things, both in open source and in cloud native. Expect it to take about a year to really get involved in a project. These projects, in some cases, are massive. Sometimes they're really small and they don't have a lot of information. So it'll take time to get to know them. You have to rely on existing guidance and documentation, which sometimes they're up to date and that's great, and sometimes they're not. So be clear when you're asking questions about what you're referring to if something isn't clear. Every project also has its own culture and its own goals and objectives. Sometimes observing those community meetings, those community groups, is a great way to get an understanding for the relationship dynamics and the culture that each project has. If you can, finding a buddy, a shadow, or a mentor, maybe even another new person in the group that you can collaborate with as you are both approaching the project together to learn more about it and how you can contribute. Understanding how that project fits in within the larger picture of cloud native, how adopters might use it to address their use cases, is also beneficial. It gives you a more concrete understanding of what the goals and objectives of the project actually are. And doing this allows you to approach the project with some form of commonality. You're seeking understanding, the basics of how it works. And from that initial understanding is how you're going to approach other aspects of your engagement and contributions with the project. You can't assume that everybody in the project has the same experience as each other or as you. So you need to feel out and find out from individuals what their role is, how long they've been involved, what they're currently working on. This is one way of starting to expand your network. And you should always check your assumptions. What you currently do in your company for your business isn't always going to be the same thing that shows up in open source. What works for your company or organization is probably not going to work in an open source project. So it's important that you take that time and understand the culture and the objectives and the governance of a community before we start making changes within it.
Emily, just 1 second. We're going to switch interpreters.
Yep.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Yep. And your approach as you do this is come with it with a learning mindset. You want to seek understanding and knowledge. Knowledge is power in open source, and it's a great way of attracting other community members to you and building your network of peers. You also need to ensure that you're clear on that culture and expectations of your involvement within the group. And always, again, come to it from the perspective of leaving it better than you found it. You're doing something in service to a greater community. It's not just about you. There are a lot of benefits for you and your involvement here, but they're going to happen naturally. It's not something that you necessarily need to work towards. If you're inviting discovery as you're engaging with these individuals, you're also promoting collaboration. Be clear and ask open questions. If you're doing that, you get much better responses than short yes or no. If you're restating and summarizing the information that you've heard, it allows you to verify your understanding and that commonality and understanding with others within the project. It allows you to start aligning what the goals and objectives of the project are with where your personal interests may be in that community. I get a lot of frequently asked questions about this topic. They're all the same. I want to contribute to a project, but I don't know which one. I want to grow in my career. I don't know how. I want to join a community, but how do I approach that? And can someone help me? Honestly, the best thing for you to do is just try. And I know that's very difficult and tricky because there isn't a checklist or a procedure document that you can read through about how to get engaged, but ask questions of yourself. How could I potentially get involved here? Where might there be opportunities or gaps? How can I lead within this group? What does that opportunity look like? What does that pathway look like for me? And how can I collaborate better with these individuals whose culture or processes might be different than what I'm used to? In order to answer a lot of these questions, you need to know what you're passionate about. It might not be specific to technology. It might be, I want to make a whole bunch of new friends within CNCF, or I want to expand my network in this particular area so I can draw on those other individuals' strengths to complement my own. Be curious. You don't always know what it is that you care about until you've learned a lot of different things. So be open, ask more questions, test some assumptions with that community or project group, and ask for help. You're here and you're interested in doing something, anything. Don't be afraid to try what opportunities come to you. They might be small things like fixing spelling on a documentation website. It might be suggesting improvements to a project's triage process, or it might just be volunteering to learn on the fly. And this is how you expand your network. Actually, just showing up is a lot. People will get to know you and know what work it is that you're doing within a project or group. They'll start asking you questions, and you can do the same of others. Ask what it is that they're working on, why they're doing it, and what they're interested in. When you volunteer for things, be very clear that you're still learning and you might need some assistance. Are they okay with you reaching out with questions? And don't be afraid to ask for 15 minutes with group leaders, chairs, or maintainers to learn their story, why they're involved in a project, and share yours. And above all, be present. And that is the end of my presentation.
Any questions? Well, first of all, thank you, Emily. That was great.
That was really, really good, Emily. Really good. And I could totally resonate with the slides because this is how I started my journey. And like I attended so many meetings and was feeling so lost in the beginning before finding my feet about where I want to contribute. So can totally resonate on each and every word you said is totally true. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone has any thoughts, questions?
Rob says, what would you tell people who they're not really great at code per se, or they're kind of, I'm trying to think of, like, for an example, like some kind of, what kind of question can we ask, or what kind of verbiage can we use when we want to get involved in a specific team and learn there? And it, like, maybe people are too afraid to ask, or everybody's super smart on a certain team and you are just trying to learn about that topic. Is it still okay to approach them? How do you do it? What would be the best icebreaker to use?
So yes, it's always okay to approach them. For myself, my first journey into open source and ultimately cloud native was attending a presentation at a conference at KubeCon and asking a question because I couldn't believe what I heard, that they were doing security assessments on open source projects. It was unheard of. And I had so many questions. Well, how are you doing that? How does that work? What is the level of effort? Is this something that I could potentially get involved in? Be curious. That's the first thing. Be genuine in your interest about a particular topic because you're seeking to understand and then assess whether or not it aligns with your interests. The response I got back from the individual when I started asking those questions was, well, why don't you show up to one of our meetings? And that's how I kind of got involved. I asked more questions in the meeting than I got answers for. And then I spent time going to Tag Security's repository and reading through all of their documentation. And then learning that, well, if I want to see changes to the documentation, it's not just enough for me to ask questions to have it changed. I need to be the change agent myself. Because what will end up happening is if I file a pull request, which is not code, it's just documentation, on the repository and I get something wrong, there's pull request reviewers that are going to look at it and say, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. And as long as I'm positive in my re-engagement on them to make those changes, because I see these as learning opportunities for myself, that PR is eventually going to get merged into the repo. And then I've got one thing done. And I can go back, think about my other questions I've had, and make more changes and more suggestions. It might be filing an issue on a repo, or it might be understanding how the pull request process actually works more, because maybe it's not documented for the project and it's causing me some confusion in the PR. So this is where asking those open-ended questions is very helpful so that you get more information back. Did that answer your question, Rob?
Yep, thank you. And Milad and Matt have questions. Matt can go first, Milad says.
What if you don't code at all and you just have like business skills or marketing skills or other skill sets? Can you still contribute to open source?
Yes, you can. Marketing and business skill sets are often the one thing that many open source projects fundamentally lack, unless they're backed by a particular vendor organization, and they'll have those people that show up. But a lot of projects struggle with increasing awareness about how awesome the project is, what it does, and how it can be used to solve business problems. When I do due diligence on projects in CNCF for moving levels, one of the things that I try to look for and I seek out when I have adopter interviews is why they're using the project, what benefits it actually provides them. That information helps me as a TOC member understand the maturity of the project and whether or not adopters find value in it. But that information is also helpful for other adopters to understand how their business peers might be leveraging it, and also for the maintainers to bring that information back in, make improvements to the project, and understand it more. So if you don't have coding experience, reach out to users of the project and understand what it is that they're doing, take those insights and that knowledge back, and share that with the maintainers and collaborate on how you could potentially either address those issues or be more clear in how the project is expected to be used.
Thank you.
Milad? Okay, yes. Thank you very much, Emily, for the wonderful presentation. I think it was very beneficial, but also as myself, in contributing to open source, and I've had a lot of experience with that, but a lot of the deaf community, many of the community members, one thing that I find is lacking is we don't have enough deaf community meetings to show what open source is or how it can be used. It's not known widely enough in the deaf community. That's one thing that's a real struggle. And hearing people, of course, are out there in groups learning about it from each other, but it's harder for deaf people to join groups and learn about it. So having experience as a deaf person myself, or several of us do, about getting into open source and contributing. Thank you for what you said, and thanks, Catherine, for obviously getting our cloud native presence established here with the CNCF Deaf and Hard of Hearing Working Group. But I think we don't have enough presence in these groups, and people aren't showing what they've done enough, I don't think. And of course, accessibility, deaf culture, that sort of thing is really can be a real struggle. But once those hurdles are overcome, it's great to get involved. And that's, of course, a step. But really what you shared today was really great. I think we need to be more active in this space. And more active by who, Rob says? Well, like me as myself, I can because I have. But I think we need more people in the deaf and hard of hearing community to contribute and to strategize about how we can get more involved in different open source groups. And we just kind of need that first entree, that first step into it. You know, I think it's something that a small group of us have done, but cloud native, you know, we could pick one thing in open source that's pretty entry level and see if we can start getting in there and getting some basic skills in that arena, get interpreters or whatever we need to do, and get that first step rolling. And then hopefully it'll be easier for the deaf and hard of hearing folks to get involved in open source in the future. Rob says, okay. Milad says, Catherine, your turn.
Yeah, well, first of all, to your comment, Milad, well, this group basically hopefully does that because we have now a group within the CNCF. We're getting more people in and they are familiarizing themselves with what the CNCF does and the project. So that's how it starts, right? Because as you said, there is a small community, but like by creating this community where people start joining, and that takes a little time because like getting the technical skills to actually contribute is not something that happens from one day to the other, right? So, but I think that's hopefully what will happen. 2 months now, 2 years, I guess. And the other thing, oh, exactly. One thing that Emily mentioned, and I think that's so important is just show up and do it. Like a lot of people are just too afraid, or I know some people in this group are like, this is not good enough, or you know, like that's like just like blocking yourself. Just create a PR, just do it with the glossary. Don't think about like this is not forever. Like if you do a video and it's not like you can always change it. So I think like the kind of looking for perfection because you're afraid of submitting a PR that is not like perfect, I think that is not like the right approach because then you end up not doing anything. So I think like Emily just put it very correctly. Just show up, do it. Don't be afraid. See it as a learning experience. People will provide feedback, and based on that, you will learn. That's how we all learn. Like the public, like I think I mentioned that with Travis one time. Like the open learning is really important. People see it and see the discussions, and that's how we all learn versus like hiding it behind like a little DM or something. So open source is a lot about open learning. Sandeep.
Oh, yeah. I'll just add to what Emily and Catherine said. And I think the single most biggest important factor for me in my open source journey was showing up. This alone makes a lot of difference. And you have to consistently show up. Like when I was doing comms and it was a meeting on Friday night, and it was very hard to show up on every Friday night. So one part of my brain just wanted to relax and enjoy, but I would step every Friday night consistently for 6 months. I showed up, and that made like a lot of difference. So consistently showing up is something you can all do, and it's okay. Like in the first meeting, I couldn't follow much, but in the second, third, subsequently, I was able to get like a lot of gist of what's happening. So Milan, one thing is that you said like you want a small group of people, but you can be the change that you want to see. You can start showing up and you can start doing that as well.
Go ahead, Travis.
Milad was saying we all have a lot of on our plates and have a lot of things to do.
Go ahead, Travis. Really, I'm very happy to have you here, Emily. I wish you had come sooner anyway. But I'm happy that you came. And I just wanted to ask you, I know showing up is really the key to getting involved in any open source group, but I think some people have a problem in that work-life balance is difficult. And some of us in the community are really lucky to work for companies that actually contribute to open source. And so I feel like different individuals are, more fortunate than others. And unfortunately, not everybody works for a company. Like I work for a company that doesn't even understand why I would want to be working on this in my free time, and it's nothing to do with what I'm working on in my company. So it's something that's been challenging to do in terms of time management and commitment. And, later I realized I can't commit 100% because I'm trying to keep my work-life balance. And I like to, enjoy having fun or whatever. And I feel committing to being a maintainer is really a big, serious job. And it's almost a full-time job. And it's kind of scary to commit to something that's that large and that's a volunteer, not paid position. That's really tough. But I just wanted to know, like, if you know any maintainers or contributors who, they fall off the planet, like they disappear and just they're busy with life and things happen or they lose their job or they move and they can't afford to contribute anymore. They have to focus on other things.
So
Prioritizing things is hard. And like, I don't know if it ruined your reputation in the community if you just can't come anymore. And so I've been kind of worried about all that sort of thing. And so how do you navigate that? And yeah, it's been really hard for me to do that. And I'm thinking in terms of future, being scared to commit or scared to contribute because, anyway.
I completely understand. It is very hard. You've asked a lot of questions, or you've kind of explained some areas where you struggle, and you're not the only one. In CNCF, we have a lot of project maintainers that will disappear. They'll just be gone, and they don't tell anybody what's happening with them. It could be they have a medical issue that they need to deal with, and that could be sudden, unplanned, and unexpected. It occurs, but you come back and you say, hey, sorry, I had a medical thing. I'm back for right now. I might be out again. Being as upfront as you can about your availability helps set expectations that others can work around. And it's even better if you can identify other community members that you've been mentoring to replace you, to fill in that gap in your absence, particularly if you know that maintaining a project is getting too difficult for you to do alone. You need to bring others in behind you. Work-life balance is always going to be a challenge, but you're in control of your own schedule. And as long as you are being very clear, hey, I only maintain this project for a couple hours on the weekend, don't expect 24/7 support. Just being transparent with your community members, with your adopters about what to expect always is helpful. It's being honest with them. As far as time commitments go, it really depends, like you said, on your employer. But one of the things that I recommend community members reach out to their managers and their employers about is time commitment expectations and trying to stick with that. If you're a community member, you're not heavily involved in a key role on a project, maybe 5 to 10% of your time is totally okay. And then providing that explanation to your management about how your contributions to an open source project benefit you as an individual at the company versus your company who might be using that project, because they're not always the same. Your career growth and skills you get in open source contributions can help you and your team around you, because collaboration is the lost art. And then as long as the project aligns with your business's use, maybe it's the upstream of a downstream that you're developing and productizing, that's a little bit easier to justify that commitment upstream, because you're saving money on that fork and that patching by doing it upstream first. However, if you want to go the maintainership route, I try to recommend folks stick with 20% to 25% of their time. And I know it seems like a lot, but maintaining a project, like you said, is a lot of hard work. but you need to fix those times for yourself. As a TOC member, right now I've dropped my time back to 15 to 20%. When I was the chair of the TOC, it was closer to 20 to 25, and I felt terrible when I couldn't fill all of that 25% time. It took a while for me to be okay with that because I needed to strike work-life balance for myself. And it's those little hours that add up over the course of the week. It might be checking Slack messages in the morning to make sure you're not blocking folks, or it might be spending an hour at the end of the day going through and triaging some issues. You need to work through your schedule in a way that works best for you so it doesn't feel so burdensome, and be totally okay taking a step back when it's too much, because you can get burnt out as a maintainer. And identifying community members that you can mentor, coach, and lead into your role will also help you. It takes a little bit more work because you're ramping somebody else new up, so you're going to slow down. But in the end, it helps you because it allows you to take that vacation you've been looking forward to without fear that something terrible will happen in your project because you've started to train somebody else up. And quite honestly, it's just open source. Adopters get what it is that they see. The license makes no guarantees beyond what is there, and it's totally okay to just leave it at that.
I also, if there are no questions, I wanted to mention something else. And I know some of you did meet Emily at KubeCon, but Emily is one of our mega supporters for the diversity groups, not only the deaf and hard of hearing, but all the other ones. And like without her support, the other things that we're doing, like on parallel of this, that wouldn't be possible. So like big shout out to her for being yeah, an amazing ally for this and all the other groups as well. We need more Emilys.
Emily, what is the Moxie Fox in your name?
It is my old personal GitHub handle. If you see me on GitHub now, it's the Fox at Work, but the Moxie Fox is my brand in open source. I had the fortune of attending a brand building seminar for women in technology, and they recommended doing something like that. And I have taken it and run with it. When I used to wear glasses, I had my glasses branded on the side. I have a pair of sneakers that have the Moxie Fox on the back. So it's very easy for people to find me, although now it's usually the hair color that gets them.
Thank you.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
No, it at all. So it's like, thanks for asking, Sandeep. Yeah, I think if there are no questions. We have a few more minutes. No, we don't. No, yes. But Emily is, I think, off the hook if she wants. Oh, she could stay around if she wants to.
I actually need to drop for a TOC meeting now, but thank you all so much for having me. Feel free to reach out on Slack if you have additional questions or need some pointers.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
I think Catherine, you have like a couple of updates, so maybe you can go next.
Yes, and again, like I think this was really important to have that conversation, and I tried to invite Emily like 2 months ago, and she couldn't make it, and I actually forgot that she was supposed to come in today, and then I saw it. Otherwise, I would have announced it much earlier, so that most of the people could actually come. So let's talk whatever we.
One thing, I have never actually met Emily. Never met her in person. I saw her for the first time. I did not even know how she looks.
Well, now you know, and hopefully you will be able to see her at the next KubeCon. Okay, so KubeCon tasks, post KubeCon tasks. So we did, you will see in the agenda a link to the debrief summary doc. Have a look, especially for the people who actually joined, if there is anything we want to add. That is for us, for our team. so we can review that before the next KubeCon and improve. Then Sandeep created a feedback doc for the Linux Foundation team. Question, what are the next steps? And also, do we want to create an AV setup guide for conference? No, a setup guide, yeah, for conference teams. This is like, I wrote, there's a mistake here. But yeah, so if you see, there were like some issues that people raised when you have two speakers, one is deaf and the other one is hearing or oral. Like, how do you do it with the interpreters? And then I think Andres suggested something, but that would require a special setup, additional AV, and that is not something the CNCF will be able to do, because that would have to be the setup on every single room. So I made like a suggestion of something that could work. Please have a look if that's something we want to do. We could create a guide, which we then send to, well, in this case, the Linux Foundation, but also anyone can send to a different event organizer if you're speaking and you are co-presenting. Because yes, like we have a video, and then you have only one person signing on stage and one person speaking, and then the interpreter who is interpreting for the speaker, the hearing speaker, so that the deaf speaker can see it, is not on stage, right? So that's like, and then it's not under recording. Yeah, so two questions I had. What is the next step for the feedback document? Maybe Sandeep, a question for you, because you started it. Do you want to send it to the Linux Foundation?
Yeah, I thought maybe I think we can discuss it with Wendy and the Linux Foundation team on like how we can do better the next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we would have to do it, right? I just wanted to make sure that, because you create the doc, I just wanted to make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks and then it just get lost. So do you want to take that as an action item to?
Yeah, sure, but how do you suggest we take it forward?
How do we
Like,
what?
Like to whom do we reach out about that?
Celia and Wendy. It's always the same people.
Okay, perfect. So we just email them, right?
Email, Slack, yeah.
Perfect.
And then regarding the guide, I know Anastasia was saying yes, yes, yes. So I'm aware that most of you may not have seen the comments. So does that sound like something that we should be doing?
I see some head nods.
Yeah, because we need a volunteer as well, because as Emily said, got to do it. It's like, so I'll put that, let's maybe start a thread on Slack, and I will tag Anastasia, because she, like, the conversation was with her and you, Sandeep. I think you started it. Then the other thing is KubeCon photos. It's always great. Like the KubeCon photographers are really great, and they're really cool pictures. And Mike, I sent a picture to you. You're on one too. Yes, it's so many pictures, and it's really hard to have one person go through 50 pages. I think it's only 38 this time. Sometimes it's like 50. So we break it down and ideally have everyone like look at 10 pages and then download pictures and upload them to our drive. So we have them, we can use them for talks and so on. Yeah, volunteers are needed. I think we have 10 more left. So ideally the people who actually went to the conference should do it, but like if anyone else wants to volunteer, feel free, you know our faces. And so that is one thing. One thing that came out, so the way the Linux Foundation set up their drives, which makes sense now, because if you think it's open source and anyone can add content and like how much stuff would be on an open source drive would be crazy. So I didn't even know you could do it. So if you upload something on their drive, you're the owner and it's actually on your drive, but it is on their drive. I don't know how it works. So it's like, so don't download the highest resolution. Don't do tiny pictures either, but like do a okay resolution so it does not eat up all your space. And yeah, another reason for sharing the download so it's not like all on one person's drive. And then okay, so and then one
Malad
thing
says deaf culture requires high resolution, Catherine.
high resolution, but like the other pictures are huge. I mean, it's like to create a poster. No one will, you know, do a poster. They're pretty high resolution, even if they're not the highest. And then we need to add the talks to the media tracker sheet. Andres, you had volunteered, so can you do that?
Yeah.
Great. Let's not
I've
forget.
already done that. I've put some stuff up there, so you'll see it.
Oh, I didn't see that. Like today?
You don't see it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, all the talks, all the conference talks as well. Yeah, I think there's stuff missing. Yeah, from the conferences and anyways. And then the other thing that's really important, you put a lot of work into your talks. It's time to promote them on social media and let's get the word out. Especially Rob and his keynote. We need to really boast about that. So whoever did a talk, don't forget to write a LinkedIn post and share on the channel so we can all just show and show off like all the amazing stuff you've been doing.
I'm planning on it. Malad says get the word out there.
Yeah, and Sandeep, we also have like the CUBE interview, so that's something that you should do.
Yeah, then you can get it out to everybody.
Yeah, so that's basically, so a lot of like a few things that are already kind of done where we need help. And then what we haven't started at all is like the talks, and sometimes we forget and we don't do that, and that's like a huge missed opportunity because like you worked so hard on getting those talks up. So yeah, we have 4 more minutes. Sandeep, over to you.
I think yeah, so the KubeCon CFP it closes in about 1 month on May 27th. So I mean we are still not out of the KubeCon hangover, but I think it's still time for us to start thinking on what we want to present into KubeCon North America. We have about till May 27th. That's about just 1 month.
You're saying we have to submit by May 27th? Okay.
That is torture, by the way. I hate that. We are still recovering, and then it's like we didn't get even a week of KubeCon free breaks. I don't know why they do this. It's in November.
Nope. It's always KubeCon every day, everywhere. It doesn't
Terrible.
matter if you're talking about Japan, Hong Kong, China. There's always a KubeCon somewhere. It's crazy. I feel like Malad's saying we need to change the plan because before Paris, I felt like we had more time and we had more time to talk about it, but it feels like everything is so close all the time now. It feels like we're always a month out. It feels like they announce something so fast and it's hard to keep up with, and it's just a whirlwind. Yes, CNCF, community involvement, it's just more showing up, more stuff in your face. That's what we're seeing now. Before it was, I don't know, more measured, but I think it's much more in your face now than it used to be. Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot. Yep. Okay, well, I have to take off, Rob says. Okay, so good to see you all. And Sandeep,
Yeah.
take over. Bye.
Yeah. Travis, you wanted to add something real quick? We have about just 2 minutes left.
Travis,
Yeah, Travis, go ahead. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize it's my turn. Okay, so it's really, we're running out of time. So, looking for, doing more introduction level and not really detailed level stuff. So I missed the topic. I'm not catching what we're talking about.
Tagging?
Yeah, he's talking about
Uh,
tracing,
okay.
monitoring, and ABPF is
Thank
what
you.
he's talking about.
Missed the topic. So I missed the topic. I didn't understand what the context was for all this stuff. Okay, so anyway, and then for the other thing, I mentioned it before, we should host like a deaf and cloud native kind of thing, but we can host it monthly, like some sort of a workshop for the deaf and hard of hearing for people in the community to get more interest in the group. So that's something we can discuss more next time. It's fine. So that's all.
yeah. And I think interpreters need to leave, so we can do this offline. But good like, yeah, we should definitely talk about that.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.